So, I hear you're flying solo.
It's time once again for another episode of Flying Solo, a podcast dedicated to discussions encompassing all aspects of the Star Wars universe.
I got a bad feeling about this.
And now, broadcasting from a room far away from his loving wife, Nikki.
That's what I'm talking about.
You're about to enter a territory possibly more unforgiving than a Sarlacc pit. You're now flying solo with your host, Steve-O Solo.
Yes, you are. Welcome to another episode of the Flying Solo podcast with me, Steve-O Solo. You know, because it makes sense that somebody would give somebody a name when they're by themselves. Solo fits perfectly. It doesn't ruin one of the most iconic characters in the history of cinema at all. Not just a little bit. What's up, everybody? It is a lovely, beautiful, overcast, rainy day here in Southern California. Very excited to be here with y'all. I feel like we've got a fun one planned. A very positive podcast planned for today. I feel like as more of these happen and we get more comfortable here, formatting the show more, I feel segments are starting to brew. I feel like there's things coming. It's coming together well. You know, I think maybe going to start off with like a newsy type segment. Maybe not like news, but topical things that are worth talking about. Going to talk on the meat and bones. Every episode's going to have like a solid base. Of course, you know how I go on my tangents. That's always going to be a staple here for sure. And based off of episode 2, I think it'd be fun to end every podcast with, can the live Twitch audience get Steve ranting about anything? Is there anything that they could say that could spark a rant? And that's on you, Twitch chat. That's on you. All the folks that are here, welcome. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate all y'all who show up live on these Monday mornings, afternoons, wherever you are in the world. Really appreciate all y'all. But like I said, today we're going to hit on, and there's a week between these every Monday. So some stuff happens and things get clarified and news gets confirmed or rumors get confirmed or theories get confirmed. Stuff like that happens. There's a lot of days in between. So I'm going to mention some of that stuff. Today, I'm going to talk about why Return of the Jedi is the number one Star Wars movie from my point of view. I think that's important. And then we'll wrap up with your comments, questions, maybe a rant here or there. Who knows? But I feel like this is moving in a really good direction. I'm getting more comfortable with this. Getting prepared, doing my... I rewatched Return of the Jedi over the weekend to just reiterate some of the points that I like to make about it, and nothing's changed. This is the best movie in the Star Wars universe, from my point of view. But some of the things that kind of popped out over the week that I saw, and I'm back on researching things, seeing what everyone's talking about. And one big thing, a big topic of discussion that has happened since the Mandalorian Season 2 finale was, when is Mandalorian coming out? Season 3? When is this Book of Boba Fett movie or show coming out? And it's been officially confirmed. I saw a report with Disney tagged, Lucasfilm tagged in it. Boba's coming out in 21. And unfortunately, it looks like Mando's not coming out until 22. Which I'm a little disappointed. Like I would imagine it's going to be like January. Like, it's not going to be December of 22. If they did that, that would be, I feel like that would be just a huge missed opportunity for them to wait that long to put season 3 of that show out. But I would imagine that 22 means January, February, like first couple months. I think that capitalizing on what they just did with season 2, it needs to happen sooner rather than later, in my opinion. Like, that's just something that, like I mentioned it, strike while the iron's hot. It's one of the hottest shows on TV, period, whether you're a Star Wars fan or not. I mean, there are people who are not even Star Wars fans who are like, oh my God, that was epic. Like, that was so good. And I like the idea of getting the Boba Fett show done, get his story out of the way, get his wrapped up. Hopefully it's not something that overshadows Din and his journey, because that was one of my biggest fears, and it's still, like, I still have that. I still have that concern and that worry that Boba Fett's one of the most iconic characters in Star Wars. Whether you love him, hate him, think he's overrated like me, I love him. I think he's great, but I do think he's overrated. I mean, now he's not really overrated because Favreau and Filoni kind of delivered on making him look like a total friggin' badass and giving those Boba Fett fans a lot to just stay behind, because he was badass in The Mandalorian. It was fantastic. But he overshadows Din without question, as he probably should. Din's a brand new character. He's only been around a couple years. Boba Fett's been around 30 plus. And he's the first one that we ever saw rocking that armor. So it would make sense to an extent that he would overshadow people. So get his story out of the way, get his mini, I think it's going to be a mini series. So get that done. And then let's get back to The Mandalorian and all the other shows that are going on. One of the shows that I personally don't have a ton of excitement for, because I don't know much about what the show's going to be about, The Bad Batch. It's one of the series that I'm not totally up to speed on, but I did get caught up. I watched, I think, 3 of the first 4 episodes of season 7 of the Clone Wars. I gotta watch one more to get caught up fully on The Bad Batch, but I don't know. They're funny. They're cool. They're interesting. I don't know if I'm overly hyped for a whole series just featuring them. I don't know. I don't know what I'm missing. I could be missing something with them, but getting caught up with those episodes of the Clone Wars, I wasn't too, I wasn't like, ooh, I need a show with them. They're really entertaining. They were fun. I just didn't get the vibe that I needed their own little standalone thing. Have not seen the trailer for Bad Batch. I might watch it once I get this final episode watched. I mean, their story is interesting since they are clones, but they're different. And they all have very specific skill sets, which is really interesting. But yeah, that's one thing that I need to get a little bit more excited about. I feel like I need to do a little bit more research on them to fully get invested in wanting to watch a whole series with them. I saw an interview with Diego Luna happened. This is kind of fun for you Andor fans. He mentioned how Rogue One, he says that Andor feels like when he was filming with Rogue One, which I feel like is a really, really big statement, that they're putting so much time and effort and money and investing so much into these shows. And the fact that Diego Luna would come out and be like, yeah, it feels like we're on a movie set for Rogue One, I feel like that's a really big statement. And I think that's really exciting for someone who's not totally another show that I'm not super excited about, just because we know Cassian Andor's fate. We know what happens to him. And for me, like, I'm all about story and character and development and all that stuff. And it's kind of hard for me personally. I don't know what you guys think, whether it's hard to get behind a series for a character that you know exactly what happens to them. It's hard to get super invested and super excited, and I don't know. That might change as I see some of the stuff. Like, Rogue One is one of my favorite Star Wars movies, and I really, really enjoyed Cassian Andor's role in that movie. His story is really powerful. It's really strong. So maybe as that gets closer, maybe some teasers come out or something like that, might get a little bit more excited. Hearing this is really exciting. the fact that they're putting so much into all these shows, it's just really, really good for Star Wars as a whole, I feel like. And yeah, just seeing the budget and how much they put into The Mandalorian, and if they're going to extend that to other shows, hell yeah, sign me up. I'm definitely going to watch all this stuff at some point, one way or another. But it is really, really cool. Really, really cool to see that Lucas, Disney, they're all putting the effort into kind of crafting and building these shows. This is something that I saw. I don't know if it's new. I'm pretty sure it's not new. And I'm pretty sure I've seen it before. It might have just been something that I kind of like erased from my memory. But I had to bring it up based off of the theme of what this podcast is. And Star Wars Newsnet is one of the sites that I'm using to kind of gather my news and see what people are talking about. I can't... One of my buddies was like, go to Reddit. Like, it's a great place. Reddit's awesome. And I'm like, I can't spend more than 2 minutes on Reddit without, for some reason, just getting really annoyed. I don't know. I don't know if it's the format. I don't know if it's the look. Maybe I'm just like one of them boomers who just can't get down with Reddit. But I can't rely on Reddit as my source of information. I need like an actual website. The old dog in me, I guess, you know. But Reddit is just, I don't know. I just struggle like consuming the content. It's not even that Reddit is toxic. It's just, I don't know if the format just is very conducive for my brain to read and to gather information. I don't know. And plus, it's like such a deep rabbit hole. Like, you find another link to something and you just fall down that rabbit hole. It's like, if I'm focused on trying to find what I need a just very dedicated spot for that. Because, I don't know, that's just how my brain functions. But I saw on the side this little ad. I think it was like a little ad for this thing. And hashtag make Solo 2 happen. What the shit? A positive fan movement, and that's great. I love the idea of a positive fan movement. That's wonderful. I love that. Positive fan movement, sharing love for Solo. I didn't know there was that much of a community that loved that movie. Showing support for continuing the adventures of Han Solo. Continuing the adventures of Han Solo? Go watch the original trilogy if you want Han Solo and Chewie adventures. We don't need a Solo 2. If anything, Solo 2 should be built around Kira and Maul. Solo didn't work for a lot of people. I'm not the only one. They could call it Duo, yes! Because now Han won't be all by himself. The dynamic duo of Chewie and Han. That's the miniseries you need to make. You don't need to make a Solo 2. Just make the adventures of Chewie and Han. Son of a bitch. Of course it would take something like that just sitting on the side of a website, on the side of the website to get me riled up. Would love to see Han during his running for Jabba years. I mean, that's probably what Solo should have been. It should have been something new and fresh versus just visually showing us things that we already knew. That's probably what Solo should have been. Because it literally, like whether you like it or not, and I said that it's a fun movie, it's got good adventure, it's fun, it's visually beautiful, but it doesn't add anything to the entire lore of Star Wars. Getting some adventures and getting more with Han doing what he did with Jabba would probably add a lot to the universe. But I feel like that ship has sailed. I feel like I don't know if I was Alden Ehrenreich if I would come back as Han Solo, to be honest. I mean, I don't know if I would personally do that. But again, you never know. It's just one of those things where I saw that on the corner. I know it's not new, and I probably even said something about it when it was like a popular thing. But it's one of those things I erased and had to talk about it because this is the Flying Solo podcast, because I'm alone. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about in terms of topical information. Did y'all see the new Star Wars Theory trailer for episode 2 of Vader? Vader. That dude is so talented. That story looks so cool. I really like that dude. I think he is for as much shit as he gets, and we're gonna talk about the bullshit in a minute, because that might be something that fires me up. For as much shit as that guy gets, he is a really, really good thing for this Star Wars community, I feel like. Yeah, it's a fan fiction, fan-made film. He made episode 1, now he's making another one, episode 2. It's animated. I think he went more animated for episode 2 for various different reasons. But it looks fantastic. That teaser was so good. Maybe it's something we could react to over on Nikki Steven React over on YouTube. When episode 2 actually drops. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic. He's good. Some of his theories are a little out there, but that's the whole point. He's Star Wars theory. Like, that's what he does. He comes up with theories. And some of the stuff maybe gets people, like, I saw something, I think it was him who posted, like, season 3 is going to be Boba Fett. Like, that kind of stuff with all of his followers could be kind of problemsome a little bit. And overall, I love his content. I love what he does. I think he's really, really good for the community. I hate the kind of stuff, the negative attention that he gets for just being a fan. And then when something like this happens, this pisses me off so much. Pablo Hidalgo, who I don't know what his current role is right now, but I know he's linked with Lucasfilm. I know he's involved. I know he works there. This dude came out and made fun of Star Wars Theory for being emotional about Luke's return. Are you fucking kidding me? He's the head of the story group. How would you have liked people to have reacted to that, sir? You're going to tweet, and by the way, all of his tweets are protected, so you can't actually see anything that he's saying. The head of the Lucas story group is making fun of Star Wars fans for being emotional. I'm proud that shit made me emotional. That was an emotional fucking moment. And the fact that he would publicly, well, I guess it's not really public because all his tweets are fucking private, like a punk. People say things and they private their Twitter account. Like, come on, man. But like the fact that people come out and like make fun of people for being emotional for a very emotional episode of TV. Something that we've been invested in as Star Wars fans since we were children. Some of us 30 plus years since the beginning. Grown ass men and women crying about the return of Luke Skywalker. Why is that weird? I think you're weird if you don't get emotional. How dare you make fun of somebody for shedding a couple tears and people calling him out like, oh, you staged that. The dude was live for like 30,000 people. I don't think it was manufactured tears. I think the dude is genuine. I will defend Star Wars Theory because I think he's great. Again, his theories sometimes could be a little out there, but I think that's the whole point. I definitely, like, my eyes got a lot more watery while I was editing the reaction than when I was watching, because I think from my immediate reaction, I was in shock. I was like, what? Like, this is happening? The whole point of this kind of content, regardless of the genre, regardless of the brand, regardless of what it is, the whole point is to be emotionally invested. If I'm not emotionally invested, what's the point of watching it? And it's just such a bad look. And I know this is something that's happened. It goes deeper than just what Pablo Hidalgo said recently. Lucasfilm and Disney folks, especially higher ups, should not be making fun of fans anywhere. They should be embracing and supporting and cheering them on, because look, a lot of people don't like your content. A lot of people are really pissed off with what Disney's doing with Star Wars. And look, I know Rian Johnson got a lot of slack for The Rise of Skywalker. I don't recommend anyone ever attacking a content creator if they don't like something. But as the top dog, you don't need to attack the fans on social media. I know people said some really fucked up things, and people say a lot of really fucked up things. It's just safer just to ignore it, because all you're going to do is rile up that base even more. It's like, oh, Rian Johnson talked shit to me. Build up the base. Like, it just builds it up. It's like Pablo Hidalgo is going to get, like, how many Twitter, like, all right, Star Wars Theory has 100,000 followers on Twitter and like 2 million or something on YouTube. Like, I don't know if that's the dude that I would clown. Like, I don't know. That just really bothered me, and I saw it and I wanted to talk about it. But let's jump into the meat and potatoes of this podcast. Let's talk about why Return of the Jedi and everyone else's opinion about what the best Star Wars movie is wrong, and why Return of the Jedi is number one. Return of the Jedi. So I kind of went through the movie. I watched it. I took notes just to jot down the stuff that I wanted to focus on. And right off the bat, I'm kind of just going to like rapid fire through some of the stuff that I really like. There is nothing that I don't like about this movie. I'll talk about the thing that I think is kind of silly in a minute. But overall, I feel like top to bottom, start to finish, this is the best. It's my favorite. Best is a hard thing to say, because I do kind of feel like Empire Strikes Back is, like, in terms of like actual, like, if you were to break it down in like a film class, I feel like Empire would probably be considered the better movie. But Return of the Jedi is number one for me. I think opening it up with the whole rescue at Jabba's palace scene, like, I thought that was a great way to kick off the movie. I think it was so much fun. Confident Luke shows up, force choking motherfuckers, standing there with Jabba, all confident. And then he got to fight the big monster. Got to save some folks. I think it was a really great scene overall. Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, Lando all together. Got this plan, seeing it play through. I think it's great. We get to see Luke's new beautiful green lightsaber, which there's a deleted scene of him making that. You can find it on YouTube. I'm really happy that they cut that scene out, because I think the reveal is really cool. Does a salute to R2. He launches it. Fight on. Let's go. We finally get Boba Fett's name, which is really cool. Boba Fett? Boba Fett? Where? And then he proceeds to get knocked in the Sarlacc pit. I think the Jabba fight and rescue was great. I think that whole scene is really cool. I really, really loved it. I'm going to jump over to the Battle of Endor. This is the part where I think, like, if we're going to talk about, like, silliness, I think the Battle of Endor as a whole was absolutely fantastic. I thought it was a fun battle. Lots of really exciting things playing out. We got our first look at the Scout Troopers, and their speeder fight with Luke and Leia I thought that was super awesome. That's like one of those iconic things that you'll never forget, watching those speeders flying around the forest. I think it's so much fun. But Ewoks killing stormtroopers with sticks and rocks is so unbelievable. It kind of, to an extent, takes you out of the moment of that battle. But as I was watching it again, as I watch it every single time, I don't think it's enough to fully take me out of the overall enjoyment of this movie. Would it have been crazy and cool if it was Wookiees, which is what I heard was the original plan? But Wookiee merch won't sell as well as Ewok merch with the kids, because Wookiees are scary, Ewoks are cute and lovable, and you want to hug them. I mean, if it was Wookiees, stormtroopers' arms would be getting torn off. People would have been getting wrecked. It probably would have made the battle a little bit more interesting, more realistic probably. I mean, instead we got the Wookiees fighting in the prequels, and that just didn't work at all. Ewoks were eating the stormtroopers. Very true. Their celebration meal. But the Ewok thing doesn't... It's funny. I'm sure a lot of people watch that and they're just like, oh my god, this is stupid. I'm out. I thought it was kind of funny. Star Wars is meant to have moments of silliness. The Stormtroopers, for one, is a perfect example of that. It's really funny because you get a lot of interesting insight. Like having the reaction channel on YouTube and doing The Mandalorian, it makes it interesting because we get to see a point of view from fans that I otherwise probably would have never have seen before. And the amount of complaining about stormtroopers is hilarious to me. What are the point of them? They suck. Why are they even there? Like, those are the kind of things that people say, like, and they're serious about it. I personally think it's hilarious because I feel like the stormtroopers are kind of like the comedy aspect of, like, when a battle breaks out, you know that the stormtroopers aren't going to win. You know they're going to be missing their shots all over the place. You know their target is terrible. It's got to be those helmets. They don't have real good peripheral. They can't really see very well through those helmets. But I think they're like, it's almost like a gaffe at this point. Star Wars isn't comedy, no, but they have comedy aspects to it. The original trilogy has moments that are funny. That's one of the things I think the sequel trilogy really, really missed on hard, was the comedy. Comedy was flat as hell for me in the sequel trilogy. But there are moments of lightheartedness in Star Wars. They're meant to be there. But the point of Stormtroopers is they win by numbers. They're just mass-produced warriors in gear with guns. They're not overly highly trained. They're just a mob of folks in white helmets running around with blasters. And if you've got a big group of them, they'll overwhelm you. But you get them in a corridor, kind of like 300, get them in a narrow corridor where their numbers don't matter, piece of cake. Take them out, no problem. Get a couple Jedi, slice them down. I've always thought the Stormtrooper anger is hilarious to me. But yeah, the fact that they get killed by Ewoks is a little bit over the top. I think it's kind of funny. I do enjoy it though. And the space battle. Who doesn't love a good space battle? I feel like the Battle of Endor presented a really, really awesome, entertaining space battle. There was so much on the line. Lando and the Falcon, I thought that was cool. But the space battle was I don't think it's the best space battle because I think the award of best space battle goes to Rogue One. But this is Star Wars. Having a war up in the stars. Wedge Antilles is fantastic. I believe, stat correct me if I'm wrong, but besides the main cast, I think Wedge is the only one who appears in all 3 original trilogy movies. I really wish he would have been in the sequel trilogy. I really don't like that the actor came out as like Star Wars. Pfft. He could have been like the leader of the resistance. Like he could have been in charge with all the years that he put in. I loved Wedge. I thought Wedge was great. Wedge, yeah, he was in Rise of Sky. He should have been in all of them. He should have been I'm drawing a blank on his name. He should have been Flyboy's boss, basically. Poe Dameron, thank you. One of those brain fart moments. But I thought the Battle of Endor was great. I thought that was fun. And everything in this movie is... Everything I love about this movie is emotional. The emotion of the movie is what really brings things out for me. And it kind of starts with the whole Luke and Yoda thing. It might be the Luke returning, talking to Yoda, might be my favorite moment in all of Star Wars. That's something I think we'll do at some point, is do like a countdown of my favorite Star Wars moments. Because I think it would be kind of interesting to like actually break that down. But the Luke Yoda scene in Return of the Jedi is one of my favorite things ever. Just the dialogue, the conversation. It's just, for me, it's just so powerful. Yoda telling Luke, you must confront Vader to finish your training. You're not there yet. You gotta go face him. And for me, Yoda confirming that Vader is Luke's dad is so much more powerful than Vader revealing it in Empire Strikes Back. I've talked about this before. But we're not, as viewers, we aren't supposed to believe the villain. We know the Emperor and Vader, they're there and they sense this new, young, strong Force user. And they need him to join the dark side. They'll do it at any means necessary. That's what they do. They're Sith. They're bad. We can't trust them. And when Vader hits Luke with the "I'm your father" line, that's a great moment. It's definitely probably in my top 5, 100% top 10 for sure of moments. But are we really supposed to believe him in that moment? You're watching those movies live back in the 70s, early 80s. You're not supposed to. You don't walk out of that theater being like, oh my God, he's for sure Luke's dad. Like, no. There's no way. Obviously, if you're watching them in binge style, it has less impact. But watching it and having that mindset that, like, the bad guys will do what they need to do to win. And Yuka's young. He's naive. I'm your father. Come join us. It's like, oh, damn. But Yoda in that moment, surprised that Vader told him, confirming that he is Luke's father, is just such a powerful moment for me as he like rolls over, he tries to avoid it, doesn't want to talk about it. And then Yoda goes into his, don't turn. Be weary of the dark side. Don't underestimate the power of the Emperor. Anger, fear, aggression will take you down the path. All that stuff just feels so powerful. And the validation is more powerful to me Maybe it's because of the circumstances that Yoda's laying in his deathbed. But the validation is stronger than the reveal. It's just one of those things that as I'm watching it, like, and I've seen these movies so many times, the storyteller in me appreciates that more. Yoda confirms that there is another. Leia, his twin sister, is potentially another user. And then Yoda passes away, fades into the Force. One of the saddest, like, Yoda is 900 years old. The dude lived his best life possible, without question. It's still really sad when Yoda fades. It's like one of those, like, you never really thought it would happen, right? Never thought Yoda would actually ever die. Like, what? That whole scene from start to finish is easily one of my favorites of all time. And that's one of the things that, like, catapults this movie ahead of The Empire Strikes Back for me. And is leagues ahead of anything else. The emotional factor isn't, like, the sob factor is not there in Empire Strikes Back for me. This movie has multiple sob factors to it. If you're just sitting in a room by yourself, tub of ice cream watching Star Wars, Return of the Jedi is one of those movies that just ugly cry shit, you know? Everything with Luke in this movie was great. I feel like everything with Luke in this movie was great. Which is why I think it made what happened in Mandalorian so powerful. Luke's optimism, his drive, his confidence. Everything about him, from the moment we see him walk into Jabba's palace to the end, getting fucking force lightning by the Emperor. Just everything about him is what makes him my favorite character of all time. Seeing him in A New Hope, building and growing to what he becomes in Return of the Jedi and now in The Mandalorian, is just fantastic. It's so good. And the one-on-one conversations with Luke and Vader, that stuff's so good. It's so good. It's such powerful storytelling. I love it so much. Just Luke's constant drive to see the good in his father. Calling him dad. Vader calling Luke son. His constant drive to see the good and try to pull him back to the light. And then the moment we start seeing Vader actually tugging with the idea of just like, shit, Luke, you're right. There is still good in me, but I can't disobey my master. I can't go join you. Obi-Wan once thought as you did. I hope they capitalize on that line one day because that is a really big line. We get to see a side of Vader that we never thought we would see. He's showing compassion for his son, despite this idea that he's bringing him to his master, the Emperor, to essentially either turn or get killed. Seeing that divide, seeing that tug-of-war play, like, the dude's wearing a mask and he's in full body armor, and you could just sense the way there is conflict there. When Luke walks away, Vader walks off, kind of puts his head down. He's like, fuck. Is this really the right move? Those really simple, just conversation lines. It's too late for me, son. Yes. And then we get Luke and the Emperor. I love their interaction. I was watching it last night to wrap up getting caught up on the movie. Just the way these two are talking shit to each other. They're essentially playing force chess chess. Your overconfidence is your weakness. Your faith in your friends is yours. It's like, fuck you, bitch. I'm gonna win. No, bitch, I'm gonna win. And you just see Vader just standing there just like, there's no point, son. It's pointless to resist. That back and forth is just so entertaining to me. Palp just continues to taunt Luke. He keeps pushing him and nudging him. Palp is like a fantastic troll. He just keeps nudging Luke towards that dark side. It's like, here, let me help you, son. Let me push you a little closer. And seeing Luke struggle with the decisions that he needs to make. Now he's playing that tug of war. It's like, fuck, is this dude right? Do I need to embrace my anger? As this dude keeps poking me with a stick, basically. Luke takes the bait. Oh, you want this, don't you? As he's friggin' petting Luke's lightsaber. He's like, you want this, don't you? I feel the anger growing in you. It's like, bitch, you don't know who you fucking with. But it works. Luke takes a saber, tries to strike down the Emperor, but Vader's there to save the day. And we break out into another fight. Oh, the Emperor is so good. I think getting a lot of him in this third movie is also just fantastic. Because we only got a little bit. We never got live Palpatine in the original trilogy, that is. And seeing him show up on the Death Star, sitting in that throne room, this dude's a bad motherfucker. But he's able to pull the anger out of Luke. In this fight with Vader, Dark Luke comes out. He beats Vader's ass. He is angry. He is aggressive. I mean, not at first. He's kind of hiding. He's like, I don't want to fight you. But then Vader hits him with the, all right, then I'll turn your sister to the dark side. How about that? If you'll not turn to the dark side, maybe she will. Oh, damn. He went after Leia. How dare you? Luke loses it. Gets crazy. Attacks Vader. Slices off his arm. Just like he did to him. And then he comes to the realization like, oh shit. I gotta stop. This isn't the way. Kind of pumps the brakes on that. Turns to Palpatine. Throws down his saber. In an acceptable way. Hashtag, that's my Luke Skywalker. Tells Palpatine, you have failed, Your Highness. I am now a Jedi like my father before me. Palp's not impressed. So be it, Jedi. And then strikes him down with some Force lightning. Oh shit. Gonna kill Luke. Luke's gonna die! No! Damn it! Palpatine's gonna win. Not so fast. Vader. And this is one of the moments. It's so subtle, but Vader grabs Palpatine. He throws him down the shaft. He explodes. Binary Sunset starts playing. Very subtle. By the way, I hate the new no that they added. George, why'd you have to add that? Kind of sucks me out of the moment a little bit. But you hear that amazing song playing. And Vader's redeemed. He killed the Emperor. Before I jump into another one of those moments that just gets me every single time. Palp returning in the sequel trilogy, here's a little tangent, does not ruin that moment one bit. Not one bit. It changes nothing. Anakin still brought balance to the Force. They went 30-something years with peace in the galaxy after that happened. No one said he was going to bring balance to the Force for the entirety of the entire universe forever. But why bring him back? Because Rian Johnson killed Snoke. They had no other options. The bad guys lost both times. There were no other options. They got put in a corner. But what happens in The Rise of Skywalker does not hurt that moment at all for me. It doesn't change anything. Because Anakin's purpose still played out. There was peace in galaxy for years. It was never meant to be a forever thing. Ebbs and flows. Things change. But Vader's redemption. The moment where Luke saves Vader, like as the Death Star is blowing up because the good guys are winning now. The line that gets me every single time, and I absolutely love that they did the parallel in The Mandalorian. Just for once, let me look on you with my own eyes. Take off this helmet. But Luke's like, no, you'll die without it. He's like, nothing's stopping that now. Just take it off, let me see you. That father-son moment right there is so good. Tell your sister you were right. You were right. That moment, the official wrapped up redemption of Darth fucking Vader is so good. And another thing, here's another tangent for you. For you youngins out there who try to argue Vader killed younglings, he can't be redeemed. This movie came out 20 years before the prequels. Vader's been redeemed way long before we ever see him on holograms killing younglings. You can't go back in time and change it. And for us who have grown up on the original trilogy, seeing him kill younglings only makes his redemption more powerful. It just shows how far he went. Because we don't get, like, we know Vader's bad. We know he's a terrible dude. We know he's responsible for killing an ungodly amount of people. But we don't really get to see a lot of that in the original trilogy. Maybe we'll get to see a little bit more of that with the content that comes out in the future. But seeing Anakin, that's why part of me is why Revenge of the Sith is in my top 5. Seeing Anakin get to the point where he's killing children validates and solidifies how bad and twisted this dude's mind is. It only makes his redemption even more powerful when I watch it. I am on the team that believes any character can be redeemed. Anybody could be redeemed. It just needs to be accompanied with good storytelling and great writing. Vader's redemption, in my opinion, was perfect. It made sense. And especially when you get to learn more about him in the prequels, it works so good for me. It lands perfect. The redemption of Vader is one of the best stories ever told. Any good redemption story is a challenge. You do it right, it's always an amazing story. Always an amazing story. I love a good redemption. You present a really vile bad guy to me, or villain, and you present a story of him changing to be good, I'm all about it. I think that's why the Kylo Ren character works so good for me in the sequels. I was on record many times saying you can't redeem him. His actions were too much. Killing Han. He tripled down on being bad. He tried to kill Rey. He turned on Rey. He had a moment to turn there. And then he didn't know Luke was a projection. And he fired on Luke. Like, this dude's not redeemable. You can't flip this guy to the light. But the reason why it ended up working in the end for me, and I think I did a review or a expectations for Rise of Skywalker video. I think I did a podcast for it too, which is somewhere in the links below if you were curious about my thoughts going into that movie. He thought about killing Leia, but ultimately decided not to, and someone else blew her up. But the reason why it worked for me is because it made sense. From the moment we met Kylo Ren, we knew there was essentially a fake reason why he was bad. He was playing bad guy. And I feel like he did it really well. A lot like Vader, the right person got to him at the right time of vulnerability. Ben Solo was never meant to be a bad. Like, he didn't want to be bad. But just like Anakin, right? Wrong time. Well, I guess right time, right place for the bad guys. But he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. His redemption worked for me. And the only way, like I said it, like the only way Kylo could be redeemed is if Anakin shows up to him and convinces him otherwise. I never thought possibly that his dad would come back and they would kind of relive that moment. And the fact that his mom died, I feel like that worked for me. I didn't necessarily like the idea of Rey like using force heal to bring him back to life. I thought that was kind of maybe a little much. You have to present really powerful reasons why someone is turning back to the good side when they've been presented as bad. But the end of Return of the Jedi, it capitalizes on something that the sequels were unable to do. We get Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Yoda together. And then we get Luke, Leia, and Han together. Everyone's reunited at the end. And I love a good bad guy wins story. I love that. I think that's so good. I think that's what makes Empire Strikes Back so strong. The good guys don't always win. They shouldn't. But in this moment, having all parties together, and it is very weird seeing prequel Anakin with original Obi-Wan and Yoda. Because in the originals, for those who... I still have the tapes. I still got the tapes. Seeing the original Anakin, it made more sense because he actually died in that form. Is storytelling your career? Kind of, yes. Documentary style storytelling has always been my passion and my career in terms of the jobs that I've had. But seeing all of our peeps together just wraps up what was an absolutely splendid movie. Absolutely spectacular movie. I loved it so much. Between the Vader redemption, the Luke and the Emperor interactions, the Luke and Vader interactions, the Battle of Endor, despite the silliness, was such a fun battle. Luke and Yoda, seeing the Emperor in full-fledged power, and then the rescue at Jabba's palace to start everything off. Return of the Jedi is number one. I will absolutely do a full pod. Since we did the top of the spectrum on my list, we'll do the bottom of the spectrum as well. I'll go through why Solo is the worst of all the movies. Solo is a fun movie. It was. But everything about it, it makes no sense. And I don't want to change. The last thing I want to do is change your opinion if you liked it. But in terms of the Star Wars universe, it's the worst. I personally don't think it's a debate. Opinions are debatable, but there is nothing anyone could ever say about Solo that will be like, oh, you're right, that adds so much to the lore of Star Wars. It doesn't, and we could talk about that next week. It was a fun movie. So those are my thoughts on Return of the Jedi as the best movie. Like I said, we'll talk about Solo next week. So now it's time for chat to try to see if we could get any rants out of me. I'm not gonna do a full Solo rant because we can save that for next week. But I'll back up everything I don't like about it with straight facts. If you're going to say it's great, you have to be able to do the same. The reasons I don't like it are story elements that don't make sense. There are moments in Rise of Skywalker that still add to the lore of Star Wars. Kylo Ren alone adds more to the Star Wars universe than anything that happened in Solo. The name alone is the most moronic thing that ever has been in Star Wars. Him having the name Solo, it's not even like how he got it was a joke. That moment in the movie was a joke. But the fact that he held on to the name is the biggest plot hole there is. It doesn't make sense. And it legitimately ruins the legacy of one of the greatest movie characters ever. Well, we'll dive into it a lot more next week, but let me just present the question so you guys can know where my head's at. Han shows up to go learn how, he wants to go fly. He wants to go, he's going to join the Empire so he could be a pilot. An Imperial officer gives him the name Solo. So his face, his name is in the Empire's records. He is an employee of the Empire for a while. You really going to tell me that this dude, who we know is not stupid, would keep the name Solo while running jobs against the Empire and then pass that name on to his child? That name should mean nothing to him. Why not? Because he's on like, if you're a smuggler, you don't want to be identified. That's the whole point of being a smuggler, is to not be identified. It makes no sense. It just doesn't work. The name should have literally no meaning to him. If anything, it should be a negative for him because his experience with the Empire was so shitty. He didn't get to fly for the Empire. It's like, oh, I'm going to keep this name? What? No, he wouldn't. And he certainly wouldn't pass it on to his son, Ben. That's a plot hole. Story-wise, it doesn't make sense. They turned his name into a joke. You watch that scene, if you see anything other than a joke, then it's not landing properly. That was meant to be comedy. It's just, when it comes to like a prequel, because that's what Solo is, they inject things into a prequel and about characters that we have 30 plus years of history with that don't line up with them in the core material. Introducing the idea that Han could speak in Chewie's language in a prequel makes no sense, considering there are a lot of different opportunities that Han could have spoken to Chewie, have one of those personal moments with him. You can make excuses for things, but inserting stuff into a prequel like that hurts the product. That's how it works. That's not fluid storytelling. We're gonna dive away. I'm gonna try. I have not been able to sit and watch all of Solo since I saw it in theaters. I'm gonna do my best to sit and watch the whole thing again, and I'll take some notes. But we're gonna do, since I wanted to start with the positive one, with Return of the Jedi as my favorite, and then we'll do the negative. The reasons and the explanations I always try to bring to these arguments, I try to make it an objective one based off of what we know. The things as the viewers we're not allowed to change. There's obviously a lot of emotion involved because I take Star Wars very seriously and I love it more than anything. But all of my explanations for things are all story related. It is one of my primary backgrounds. I went to school as a journalist, so telling cohesive stories has been taught to me since I was younger. I took film classes in high school. I love storytelling. How do I feel about the Lando show? Donald Glover, if it's Donald Glover, I'm assuming it's going to be a Donald Glover thing. I'm sure Billy D might, maybe, I don't know if they'll incorporate both of them somehow. I'm not super jazzed about the Lando show. I don't like what the prequel did to his overall character. It's going to be both. Well, I think that'll be fantastic. I think that'll be really cool to see how they incorporate all that. I thought Donald Glover was by far the best part of Solo. But again, it has to be something that makes sense. It has to be something that extends the lore of Star Wars. It can't just be a rehash of stuff that we already know about. As a fan, I don't want to just see like stuff we know. I don't want to just see it play out. I want new things presented, and I want new good things presented. It's like, don't make a whole movie about Han Solo just to explain what these stupid dice are. Like, that's all Solo was about. Again, something that was injected into a movie that took place before, but not once did they ever come up in the original trilogy. It's just one of those stupid things that like, oh, we're going to do a whole story about these dice and explain, like, stop. Donald Glover was fantastic. I feel like he nailed it. He was more believable as Lando than Ehrenreich was as Han, in my opinion. We've got a few more minutes here before we wrap this up. See if the live chat could come through with something that could get me going. I mean, Solo, you got me going with Solo a little bit, but I want to save that ammo for next week. Do I want Obi-Wan and Vader to have another fight in the Kenobi series? I don't think it's something that I want. I think it's something that has to happen. It 100% has to happen. You can't have an Obi-Wan show between 3 and 4 and not have their last interaction go down before their official last one. That's the spot. That's the moment that I need them to pay off the line in Return of the Jedi, where Luke tries to convince Vader, like, come with us, join the good side. And Vader says, Obi-Wan once thought as you did. When? That's a line that doesn't land. That doesn't make sense. They need to capitalize on that line. And I feel like they're 1,000,000% going to do it. I don't count the Obi-Wan trying to convince him and Mustafar as that line. I didn't sense once Anakin tried to kill Padme, and once he hit the whole you're either with me or against me line, Anakin or Obi-Wan knew he was gone. There was no convincing at that point. He wasn't trying to convince him to do anything. He was just telling him that you fucked up. It's like, we were brothers, Anakin. You were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join him. I don't think he was trying to convince him of anything while he was sitting there burning and dying after he sliced off all his limbs. He was just expressing his disappointment like a parent would do. The moment Obi-Wan takes his robe off to fight, there was no more convincing. It was over. That was done. There was no debate taking place. You will not take her from me. Only Sith speak in absolutes. Obi-Wan knew it was over there. They're going to face off again. Obi-Wan's going to have one more opportunity, and that's going to pay off that line. Do I want to see more Mace Windu? I'm really torn on that, because between bringing Palpatine back, between bringing Boba Fett back, who else? I get worried that we're going to play, if we keep bringing back characters that we, like, obviously we never saw Mace dead. I just feel like you start flirting with the never dead MCU universe. If we just keep, like, who else are we going to bring back? Like, I love Mace. He was always one of the most intriguing Jedi, just because you knew there was something dark in him. You bring him back officially. I don't want deaths to be pointless. Deaths are really, like, the proper death is such a powerful moment. I want them, they need to hold that emotion. It's the core reason why I didn't want Boba Fett to come back. His death was kind of silly, like him just getting hit with the stick and flying into the thing, and his death was kind of weak. But I worry that we might start creeping into the MCU world where no one's ever dead. And, like, obviously the Force Ghost thing creates an element of no one's ever really gone. But you just got to be careful with it. Good questions, though. Good topics, good conversation. The Hidalgo thing got me fired up early. The story group thinks Star Wars is for children. Well, they're fucking dumb. It's probably why so many people are angry at them. It's like, I'm sorry that I've been watching it since I was a child and love it more than anything. It's like, fuck you. I've never seen a group, like, blatantly insult their fans the way they do. It's just so insane. You think we'll see? I mentioned that when we were talking about the new shows last week. Liam Neeson coming back as Qui-Gon, please. And don't tell us. Make that a surprise like Luke was. Qui-Gon coming back would be so awesome. Because if we remember episode 3, that's what Yoda tasked Obi-Wan to go do. Hey, you're going to go learn how to communicate with your former master. That would be so good. I would love that. That would be an emotional moment for sure. I think that would be awesome. As the Miz says, awesome. I think that'd be really good. I mean, they kept Luke secret. They had that in the can for a year, I think. They were able to keep Luke a secret. They could keep Qui-Gon a secret. I mean, Qui-Gon's not on the same level as Luke, obviously. So maybe that is something they'd want to promote. Because that's like the number one thing for these shows these days. Is we're going to spoil our own content because we want people to go watch. I mean, I think sporadic is always better in a situation like that. I don't need to see Qui-Gon all the time. But anytime, I mean, Obi-Wan is tasked with the mission to protect Luke. He was tasked with the mission to go communicate with Qui-Gon. He's obviously on missions. He's obviously doing certain things. I feel like any time Obi-Wan is struggling with something, he should be reaching out to Qui-Gon for help. I think that's the story that I would personally like to see. But, alright, y'all. I'm going to wrap it up. That was a really, really fun podcast. I really, really love talking about the Return of the Jedi being my favorite Star Wars movie ever. The number one, top of the list, from a certain point of view, obviously. Really enjoy it. Again, there's a Flying Solo YouTube channel. Links are down below. If you're listening on any of the billion, quadrillion different audio platforms for podcasts, please rate, comment, do all that fun stuff. Chat, I appreciate y'all very much. The bits, the subs, really appreciate y'all very, very much. I love doing this live. I think it's absolutely fantastic. But until next week, where as of right now the plan is to talk solo. We'll see if something else breaks or anything else goes on. But I feel like we got the format down. We'll hit on news, topical things, jump into the meat and potatoes, and then see if you guys can get me ranting, and we'll kind of just focus on comments and stuff at the end. I really like that format. I think that's going to work. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Everyone, I'm not really flying solo because y'all are here flying with me. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Anyone that's along the journey, whether you like my opinion or you don't, I think it's fun. Opinions make the world go round. If we all had the same opinion, this shit would be boring. I think it's great. It's exciting. It's fun. But thank you again for joining me on episode 3 of the Flying Solo podcast. I appreciate and love y'all very much. And I will catch you next week. And as always, may the Force be with you. Always.